Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. If you are trying to evaluate whether real estate is the right career for you, wondering whether you are doing the right things to launch into quick success, or looking for tips and tools you can use today to become a more productive agent, this is your podcast. Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. This is Season 5. Success stories. And we are lucky to have a true success story with us today. Debbie DiMaggio is joining us from the Bay Area in California. She shared with me she also works in LA some of the time. So I want to ask you about working in two areas, but I want to introduce you first. So Debbie has been in real estate for almost 35 years, works with her husband, who is also her business partner. And I just learned has brought her son into the fold too. So we might want to find out more about that. Debbie is a 4-time author. She's a philanthropist and an expert in lots of different areas of real estate. So lots and lots to share. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, and I should mention, Debbie works with Corcoran Icon Properties. So Debbie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm excited to chat with you.
I am so excited for our audience to learn from your wealth and depth of experience. I don't think I've had an agent on the podcast recently who has been in the business as long as you have. Most people I interview have been in the business shorter than I have. And I'm usually like the old one saying, oh, back in the early 90s, but you've been doing this longer than I have, which is pretty cool. So you've seen it all. And one of the things that we talked about just as we were kind of prepping is how important it is for an agent to be able to be agile and adaptable in order to have career longevity. So let me ask you first, and I know you've got lots of things you talk about, in different settings, one being like 3 lessons that you've learned, but I know you've learned lots of lessons. What would you say, looking at the state of the market now, is like a lesson that would apply that you learned through your time in real estate?
Well, it segues right into you need to be agile, you need to be flexible, and you need to be able to just pivot on a dime. And where that came to me, I was on the football field and lacrosse field where my son used to play sports, and we would be sitting at the games. And as I was watching him pivot, playing lacrosse and swinging and turning, and people come after him, and he does these little pirouettes and is off the other side, I was like, wow, that is a lot like real estate. We have to learn to pivot and adjust.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we've got some interesting disruptors coming into the market right now. I'm trying to remember. So when you started 35 years ago, was it late 80s or early 90s that you started in?
Yeah, it was 89, 90. And we did not have email or internet, or I don't even think we had Google. I mean, we weren't using Google. There was no email. Okay. I didn't know what texting was. How I discovered texting was a younger client had been texting me, but I never saw it. And so, thank God she didn't fire me because I wasn't responding. Because later, long after the deal, I saw these things in my phone. I was like, oh my God, she had been texting me and I totally didn't see that. So I was like, thank God she did pick up the phone and call me. But I remember that as a pivotal adjustment. And I remember literally sitting at my desk, and we had the computers and the email. And I was like, oh, if someone wants to talk to me, why don't they pick up the phone? I'm not going to hide behind email. I want to talk to people, and I still want to talk to people. And that's been a big adjustment. So I remember when that email came, and I felt like I was one of the last adopters.
But it's great that you did adopt it. And there were certainly lots of agents right around that time, because I started not too long after you. And I remember vividly, there were what I used to call the oldies but the goodies in this giant office I was part of. And they would come in and they're just like, it's just what they did all day. They hung out, they talked to their friends. I don't know how much real estate they were doing, but they were there. But they would no sooner have emailed, or even we had faxes back then at the beginning. So
exactly.
Technology started. They just kind of wholeheartedly rejected all of it. And I think a lot of them faded and lost the ability to do the business because they really weren't able to adapt with what was happening. Now you have embraced all of it. I know you do a lot with social media and marketing. For people who see some of these new tools coming into the marketplace, like AI, for example, what do you say to an agent who might have been, doing the business the way that they know how to do it for a while? Maybe they also love to pick up the phone and call people. What do you say about the ability to, or the necessity of adopting some of those new tools that are coming down the pike?
Sure. So back when those older gray-haired ladies were sitting there, like you were saying, at the office, and they didn't want to adopt, it's like, you're either going to adopt today, yesterday, 20 years ago, you're going to either adapt or you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
just it's clear and simple. So for today, so we had a lot, email, text message, then social media came. And again, I wasn't like keen on social media. I kind of didn't really understand what it was all about. And we launched our company in the recession of 2008, 2009. And as my brain is very marketing. I love branding and marketing, but I'm not professionally trained that way, but I just see things a certain way. And I said, the only way we're going to launch a company not only in a recession, but just a new company, it's not going to be newspaper ads. It's not going to be slowly. It has to be fast and significant. So I immersed myself in social media. I have so many accounts. I'm trying to close down old accounts because I was training and teaching myself and making mistakes. And I just kept at it. But today, the same with AI. I've watched some YouTube videos on the pros and cons of AI, and one it was a professor who was speaking about AI and kids writing papers and stuff. And it was a really great debate. But you've got to embrace it because it is here. Is it scary? Yes. I mean, is it scary that it'll take jobs away and other things? Copywriters and everything else, but you have to embrace it. So I wrote a quote. I said, Chat GPT gets the engine started, but you still have to drive the car. Now, what does that mean? How does that translate in real estate? We can't say certain words. I'm in California. You're on the East Coast outside of DC. We can't say the word master bedroom anymore. We can't say walk. We can't even say stroll. Not everyone can walk. And I said, well, can you stroll in a wheelchair? But our office manager is so great. She keeps us on the straight and narrow, but you can't say certain words. So, you can pop in 4-bedroom, 3-bath, near shops and restaurants, and Chat GPT will just come out with this really long description, which is fantastic, but you need to edit it with a fine, keen eye, because you don't want to get sued. You don't want to get a violation with the MLS or the multiple listing service. So you still have to watch yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for agents that are really embracing it, and I do know, especially some younger agents, newer agents who are like spending a ton of time playing with the AI tools, even on social media, doing everything, that is kind of like on one side of the screen, and maybe doing everything but picking up the phone. What do you say to those agents?
Oh, you cut out.
Live podcast. Yeah,
I know. Oh my God.
So what I was asking is for the agents who are doing everything but picking up the phone, what do you say to those agents?
Oh, that I have a course that talks about that. It's called Foundation for Success. I'll tell you about, but you have to do it all. So I'll just dive into my program. So I have a program right now called Foundation for Success, and it's 5 tools to get you organized, to lay your foundation for success. And yes, it includes social media, and yes, it includes AI and doing those sorts of things. But you still gotta get in front of your audience. People need to see you, touch you, feel you. You are a celebrity of sorts. You market yourself. You might be on a bus bench. You're sending postcards, you're volunteering and sponsoring things. So your name's everywhere. So you are like a celebrity. Now, would you walk up to a celebrity and say something? Most of us wouldn't, maybe some would, but I wouldn't walk up to a celebrity if I didn't know them. So that's who you are. So you need to be at that open house. You need to make yourself accessible. When they see you in person, then they're like, oh, wow, she's like, you start to talk and they hear you. So that's super important. You've got to do e-newsletters. So you get in front of someone, they might not need you today, but they might, oh, where was that newsletter from 3 months ago? I do need that person. So you need to have it keep coming up in their inbox. Handwritten notes. I have all my handwritten notes. I love them. They're so important. Personal touch. And then podcasts and partnerships and collaboration. The list goes on. So the course is super, it's a great investment in whether you're a new agent or an agent who wants to kind of re-energize themselves. It's a great course for that. And I break everything down and make it really simple. But yes, to the new agents and the old agents alike, the older agents who've been in it a while, they need to embrace what's happening now. And then the new agents, I guess millennials you call them, or I don't know if they have to embrace the older tools that we use. I think you have to do it all.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I love that you described the real estate agent as sort of being like a celebrity in the eyes of the public. And, I love framing it that way too. And I haven't done that yet, but I think I'm going to use that with my agents here at my company, especially the ones who feel like they're bugging people by picking up the phone and calling them or going to a social engagement or inviting them to something. Because you're exactly right. I mean, think about like if you see Tom Hanks on the street, you're not going to go up to Tom Hanks and be like, hey, Tom Hanks, unless you're like a crazy fan or something. But likely you're going to be like, cool
Exactly.
and but you're not going to approach. But if Tom Hanks invited you to something, oh my gosh, I picked up the phone and called you.
Right.
Holy cow. And now he's like a person too, which is like you said, they need to hear your voice. I love that way of thinking of it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite social media platform?
I'm glad. Oh, okay. I do like LinkedIn. I really like LinkedIn. I love Pinterest, and I post on Twitter. Don't post so much on Facebook, although it's good. I need to get better about that because a lot of people are on Facebook, but I love Twitter. I mean, Instagram. I love Instagram because it's creative. There's some cool apps you could use. I mean, I'm still working hard to make my stuff look beautiful, but if you don't have a multi-million dollar house, sometimes it doesn't look so great. So I'm always trying to come up with creative ideas because I think it's so visual. It goes back to when I was a teenager, when I don't know how old you are, but I used to collage, cut out magazines and, put together collages. So for me, Pinterest and Instagram is just a collage of life, a collage of beautiful places. I know a lot of people, especially younger people, and they talk about social media being so detrimental to mental health and stuff because it's like all this beautiful imagery. But I love it because I'll look and I'll say, oh, wow, look at that agent's doing, or wow, that's a place you can travel to. Oh, I love that resort. I'm just like sucking in all the beauty and opportunities and things that are out there in the world, so I see it very differently. And I try to impress that upon people who are reluctant. There's a lot of people, you'd be surprised, who I coach over the years who are just so reluctant to be on social media, but it's because of their mindset. You've got to switch their mindset to not think of it as, don't follow the people who are stressing you out because they're whatever they're doing that's making you feel uncomfortable. Follow the beauty and learn from it and disregard the rest.
I love that. Great way to think about it. I want to take you back to something you said before, which is that you launched your company in 2008, which for those of us who were not in the business in 2008, for those of us who were, man, you think right now with interest rates is tough? That was, it was like a flat line of the real estate market in general. Nobody was doing anything. The economy was completely collapsing. And it was a scary time for people. I think there was, I don't know whether it was some huge statistic, close to half of the agents who were licensed. And kind of like the recent market that we've seen, everybody and anybody got their real estate license because suddenly it looked so easy in the early 2000s to be very productive. And then when the bubble burst, people suddenly realized, oh my gosh, this is not easy anymore. And went back to what they were doing before, or just switched careers. How how pivotal do you think it was for your long-term success that you launched a business at like one of the most difficult times in the real estate industry's history?
It wasn't so planned. It was something that just kind of happened. It was timing, of course, right? And also you go back and Google what happened in 2008 and 9. And I think Twitter might have started then. There was a whole list of companies that we all know that started during the recession. So we had an opportunity. An office wasn't doing well. It was in our little town of Piedmont. And our partner said, let's take it over. And we were like, what? And I never really thought of having a company. I just wanted to do what I was doing and do it well. Long and the short of it, we had the opportunity. So let's do it. I mean, we had been selling for a while. We're like, let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to our companies. And then I post a lot of quotes trying to inspire people. So one of the quotes I say a lot is, and this is what we kind of did during the recession, which you probably did too. It's, even when you don't feel like it, get up, get dressed, and get out, and then you'll change your mindset. So what we did is we were getting our office ready. It was being remodeled and everything. We started a boot camp, and it was during the recession where people weren't going out. They weren't eating out, you eating at home, hanging out, people weren't really out that much. So we started a boot camp in the morning. So every morning at 8 o'clock, we met down. Even my mother did it with us. We had a friend of mine's son who had been in the Marines, and he had come back, and it was like something for him to do. So we said, why don't we start a boot camp? And we were out in front of our office, going through town. People were seeing us. It was I think it was every other day. And they'd see us running through town. And so we had FaceTime, not FaceTime. I mean, people would see us. So we were out in the community, and we were always in front of our office where the park was. But it's about getting up and getting out and getting dressed, and then everything will follow, right? If you're sitting around in your sweats all day, nothing's going to happen. But if you get up and you make yourself look good, or you go work out, then things happen. And so this goes back to another agent. She wasn't doing much business. Well, she was sitting at home. And I say this, and I'm sure you say this to your own agents. Nothing's going to happen if you're sitting home. Yes, when you have work and you have to do stuff, desk work, of course, you're going to be sitting wherever doing your work. But if you don't have really anything to do, you need to get out, and movement, and things will happen. It's really surprising what will happen when you get out. The agent I was talking to started coming into the office. She sat with my husband, who's the broker of our firm. They went to lunch one day just up to the market up the street, and she ran into someone she knew, and I think she listed the house. I mean, that wasn't going to happen if she was sitting at home.
Right. Exactly. You're so right. It reminds me of being a young mom. And sometimes, we've got agents who join the company and they're young parents, and they just have those mornings where they feel like, oh, I just can't get it together. But I always encourage, just see if you can like put the baby in the pack and play for a few minutes or something like that. Get your shower, get dressed, bring the baby in here, like just get out, or go to Starbucks. I don't care what you do, but dress professionally, because that was one of the things I always realized early on. When I was always like, well, maybe somebody could call me. I might get an appointment. I might have to be ready. This is my only time to get ready. But also, I'd be out in the neighborhood walking around, and people would see me in my professional clothes, and they'd be like, oh, you're all dressed up. And I'm like, yeah, I have an appointment later. And sometimes I did. And sometimes I had an appointment with myself to lead generate. But either way,
that's awesome.
It was creating that like perception of professional persona that I was growing into when the kids were little.
Exactly.
So let me ask you about your husband and you working together. And I know this is a topic a lot of our audience members are interested in. My husband and I work together as well. And I know everybody does it differently. So you said your husband is your broker?
Yeah. So he's the broker. So he's the broker, and I'm the marketing director of the firm. But then we work together as a team, my husband, Adam, myself, and our son now, Chase. And, I'm the crazy one at the top, more with the energy directing everyone. We were at a listing appointment once, and our client he said, to Chase, our son. It was his first appointment he had come with us on. And he said, so who's the boss? And Chase said, my mother. And you are so lucky you're going to be 3 states over, because when she gets going, she's bossing everyone around when we're getting houses ready for market. And I'm Jose, this, and Lon and Felix, and, getting everything done. But so we work very differently. Adam likes to be at the office, front and center. Agents are constantly coming up to him and having questions. He's, fielding all of that. He works closely with the manager, but he likes to be at his desk at the office. For me, I could be visiting my daughter in Manhattan, walking down Park Avenue, looking at tulips, returning calls and negotiating deals, as long as Adam's here to show something, if we need to show a house. But I can work literally anywhere, which I recently taught a friend. I go, you can work from anywhere, #, work from anywhere. I'm sitting in my dining room right now, but so we work very differently, and he has one set of style, and I'm the marketing, so I'm more creative, and I love to get out and be out, all the time and running around. So we work. And then now my son has been so helpful, because I don't know how we did it without him, because he's been really instrumental in getting stuff done, bookings, being at the home inspections that we used to be at, meeting contractors, and, all the millions of things that we do as agents. But it's worked. And yes, it couldn't work for everyone. You also, and you want to be equal in, like, you do have to put one person's name ahead if you're going to, elevate as a team, so you can, rank higher or whatever. So for a while we were splitting everything, but then it looked like we weren't doing much business. So when we teamed up, one person has to be on the top. And so I'm on the top, although we do the same amount of work, but you have to have one person. So you can't have an ego, right? If that's, if that's you or your husband, one of you has to let go of the ego. But it has to be done, as I've learned over the years and watching teams grow. So, and having different skill set is really great. But not, I just want to speak on teams. I've seen people who weren't related. So a lot of times those teams fall apart, right? Because the money's not going into one family, and there are disagreements, and you're not related. So that's sometimes not so easy. But I mean, you have to have a good relationship, but we've been together we've been married 31 years and working together for 34.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So what did each of you do? I'm curious, before you were realtors.
Yeah. So, well, let's see. Well, when I graduated from college, I thought, oh, I should have, when I got my license when I was 25, I should have stayed in it. But I kind of got out of it and then got back into it when I was 30 or 29. Okay. I always said I didn't want to do real estate because my dad was in real estate and he was always on the phone. Well, there weren't cell phones at the time, so he was always tied to the house and his office. So I said, I don't want to do real estate because he could never take time away. It was a different time. But then when I worked for Southern California Home and Design Magazine and LA Magazine, and I didn't like the idea of having a boss, because I don't mind working hard, but I also want to get moved up when I want to get moved up. And so I learned fast that, I want to work hard. I want to be rewarded for that. And I don't mind working hard, but I also don't want to have someone control my destiny and hold me down. So it ended up by mistake parlaying. I moved from LA to San Francisco. And when I was dating Adam, his friend said, oh, Debbie would be really great in rentals. So I started working with this friend in San Francisco, and it just blew up. Everyone was renting in San Francisco. We started renting to the movie people when they were filming movies in town. Ted Danson, Macaulay Culkin, showed Hugh Grant around, rented to Julianne Moore, Sally Field, a lot of people. And then just renting, just unfurnished apartments to people. But it was a fast, really fun, because people weren't really so tied to the rental. It was a rental. They weren't investing to buy it. So it was a lot of turnover. Craigslist did not exist. It was us. We would list and rent. So we did very well. And then it was during the first recession back then where when job unemployment was really bad. And so Adam was trying to get into a job that wasn't commissioned. So we'd have a balance in the family, but there was unemployment was super high. So I said, why don't you just why don't we just work together? And that's how we started in rentals in San Francisco. And we started a rental department within a real estate a sales firm in San Francisco, and then continued doing rentals, and then moved over to Piedmont where I grew up. And then we started selling.
Wow, what a cool story. All right, now I want to ask you about bringing your son into the business because, again, a lot of our audience members have kids who might be reacting kind of like you did to your perception of what real estate looks like from the child's perspective. And they're like, no way in heck I'm ever getting into real estate. But
Exactly.
mom or dad might be going, I really hope that one day my kid will come in and work with me and possibly take over the business. So whose idea was it? Was it yours or was it your son's idea?
No, there was no way. So, when they were growing up, they both ended up going to Boulder, Colorado. What are you guys going to do? Like, never, ever. I mean, we've had a long practice in real estate. Of course, it would be silly for them not to do it, but not once did we say, you have to go into real estate. I mean, we're on commission. It's hard. You know what it's like. We have a lot of experience, but every day you're kind of unemployed to the next deal. So not that I really wanted that for my kids. So we never said anything at all. I mean, other friends would say to Chase and Bianca, oh, you should go into real estate. Your parents, like, you should definitely take over their business. Not once did we ever say it. Well, COVID happened. So he had graduated from Boulder. In January before COVID, he left to travel the world for a year. As you know what happened. So we had to pull him out of India in March. I was watching it happen. That's a whole story in itself. We got him home. I did say, while you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, because he just graduated. I said, why don't you get your license just so you have it, and you can always refer business. Never saying get in the business, just get your license. We did that with Bianca. She got her license in New York just to have it. So it would be a distraction while she was looking for a job that she really wanted. And so it took him a while. He wasn't really focused. And then he lived in New York for a couple of weeks, sheltering with a girlfriend. Then they went to Breckenridge and they were skiing and driving a snowplow. And he was slowly studying for his license. And then he'd wanted to move back to Denver after COVID. He had looked at apartments. He's like, yeah, I want to move back to Colorado. And then I guess he was home and I don't even know. It happened so fast. He passed his test and he said, I'm going to stay. And I go, what? He's like, I'm not going to move to Denver. I'm going to stay and I'm going to join you in real estate. I'm going to cry. It was COVID fallout. It just happened. Just things kind of happened. And and I said, what do you want to do? And, I go, this time we help the kids a lot. I said, if you want to go to Denver, that's fine. Just, everyone goes online now these days and interviews online. Figure out what you want to do and then go. And of course, we'll help you get settled in your apartment. I kind of think he probably just didn't know what he wanted to do. And then he passed. And then he's like, and then he has a lot of friends who are still at home, still in the area. So, but it's been amazing. And my friends ask him all the time, Chase, do you like it? Do you like it? And he's like, yeah, I do. And he's like me. He's kind of out and about doing stuff. But then he's like the other side, like Adam, then he can be at home doing stuff. And he's, as you know, we're always getting hit up by so many people selling stuff to us. It's gotten even worse. And I can't even get through an email because it's like, is this something I should look at? So now I forward it. Chase, vet this. I can't even focus on reading what they're selling.
Perfect. That's great. That's great. Well, that's good. I love that it came from him and that it was, sort of like an organic, move into the business working. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right. I want to take you to, and I can't believe we're almost at 30 minutes already, but we're going to go a couple minutes extra because I want to ask you about your books. And I know you've written 4 of them. Were they all a product of something that you had learned in real estate, or was one of them like kind of like bubbling in you before you started in real estate? Where did it come from and how do you find time to do it?
Yeah. So The first book happened because my daughter left. She's my oldest, and she left for college, and I was really hit by the empty nest. And I always say the empty nest doesn't happen when the last child leaves. It happens when the first child leaves, because now you're a family of 4. Now you're a family of 3. So life is very different. So I was very sad. And a client of mine said, you always talk about your children. Anytime someone says, hi, you say, hi, I'm Debbie DiMaggio. And then I start talking about my kids. She's like, you always talk about your kids. You never speak about yourself. So that's why all this second chapter of my life is just working on who I am. I'm not just Bianca and Chase and mom anymore. I mean, after so long, it's like, that is your identity. So I said, well, she's like, what do you want to do? What kind of dreams or goals do you have? I said, well, I've always wanted to write a book. I love to travel. Obviously, I love real estate. I've always had a vision of my coffee table book being at my open houses. And then when I travel, I always like to leaf through other high-end resorts. And that is what I'd love to do. And she said, well, I'll help you do it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, anyway, long and the short of it, just really serendipitous things happened. I was at a charity event party, and an editor was there, and I was a publisher. And I was like, I can't believe he's standing in front of me. Like, I know who he is through his wife, but I've never met him in my life. And I said, this moment was put here for me. I have to go talk to him. I walked up to him, it was so new. It wasn't even, now it's not a big deal. But at the time it was like, I'm not an expert in that. Long and the short of it, published Contained Beauty, photographs, reflections in swimming pools. It's at every open house. You will see it. Contained Beauty, Debbie DiMaggio, all my favorite places from around the world. Some I've been to, some I want to go to. So that was book number 1. Well, the publisher hired us to sell his house, and he said, you need to write a book on real estate. And I said, oh, I will someday. And he's, no, you need to do it now. So that is how The Art of Real Estate was born. And then from there, a publisher out of Vermont found The Art of Real Estate and called me and said, that book is so dense. She said, you have so much information in that book. We can make that into another book. I go, what do you mean? She's like, just go through and take 52 tips and things that you've spoken about in there. And then you send them to me, and we'll pare it way down. And I have an illustrator, and their books are called the rules books. And so mine's 52 ways to achieve success in real estate. And they do it for everything, every different type of job or career. And so it could be printing, it could be whatever it is. So that was that book. And then during COVID, I always want to help people feel good, look good. I mean, the core of who I am is I like to help people and share, sometimes probably too much wanting to help people. But I was like, it's not so hard for people to feel good. There's little things you could do. So during COVID, I pushed out this little book called Beauty at Any Age, because age is just an attitude, and published that book.
Love it, man. You are so creative. And what I loved about hearing all of this is all of it came from your desire, like you said, to share ways to be more beautiful in either the art of your career in real estate, or to experience beauty in the places that you have in, contained beauty, or ways to feel better about themselves. You just have given so much. Man, I feel like we could talk for another hour. This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for all of this. I so appreciate everything you've shared and getting to know you. And there's no question about why you've been as successful as you have been, because your spirit just comes through in this conversation and across the screen here for those who are watching. So Debbie, if people want to get in contact with you to either work with your team, to learn about your course, well, tell people for a second more about your course for people who want
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for having me. You are amazing. And it was so fun. But yes, Foundation for Success is 5 marketing tools to help you build a strong foundation for your business, service, or brand. And you can go to foundationforsuccess.co. And the course right now is just $50. It will go up, but it's through the end of November. It's good for anyone looking to start their business, anyone in the midstream of their business, or anyone that wants to just kickstart. It's also a great course for young adults or someone in college or after college. It's just a great tools for anyone who has a service, product, or brand. And then you can also go to DebbieDimaggio.org, and Debbie is DEBBI, no E, and then Dimaggio, like Joe and Marilyn.
Right.
DebbieDimaggio.org. And we are related to Joe DiMaggio by third cousins.
Oh my gosh, how cool. Well, thank you so much again for everything that you have shared today. We so appreciate it. Please reach out to Debbie, check out her course and her books. And for all of you who joined us today, either watching or listening, we so appreciate you as well. Please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us online on all the social media platforms. If you have comments or reviews, we always appreciate those, as well as ideas for new shows. So thank you. Thank you, Debbie. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. We'll see you next time. We are so grateful you joined us today. If you've benefited from the advice we share on the show, we hope you'll tune in to our next episode. Interested in learning more about my personal mentoring programs, our Career Kickstart course, or to pick up a copy of my book, Farming for Real Estate Agents, your step-by-step guide for becoming the go-to agent in your local market? Visit www.meredithvogel.com and click the Resources tab. If you are curious about becoming part of the List Realty family of agents, go to the www.thelistrealty.com website and click Careers from the About Us page, or find me at the Meredith Vogel team on social media. Thank you for listening. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. We'll see you next time.